Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome back to another reading vlog, or welcome if you are new. If you are new here, my name is Tonya, and I share lots of bookish content on this channel, from reading vlogs to book reviews, reading recommendation, book hauls, kind of all the things, with a little sprinkling of, just my daily life thrown in there as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely subscribe and become part of my community here on YouTube. So in this vlog, we're going to kind of just be hanging out for the weekend, doing some bookish things. I'm going to Target, and I'm sure while we're there, we'll probably look at the books. I have a book haul for you. I need to put some books on Pango. That's a used book website if you're not familiar with it. So whenever I have books that I finish reading that I don't plan on keeping on my bookshelf, they just weren't anything that was all inspiring to me, or meant something to me in a way that I want to keep it on my shelves, I list it on Pango. It's super easy to do, and whatever I earn I use to buy new books that I want to read. We'll also be doing some reading this weekend. We're going to be finishing up The Book of Fallen Leaves by A.S. Tamaki, and this is a new release. It comes out on March 17th, and this is an Asian inspired fantasy, very political, and we'll get into more details about the book later in the vlog when I'm doing some reading. I'll kind of get you caught up on the background of this book, where I'm at in it, and kind of my thoughts so far. So now I'm just going to get ready to leave, go run my errands, see what I get into, and yeah, I'll be taking you along with me for all the things this weekend. Alright guys, so I'm back from all my errands, and quite honestly, I've been back for a little while, just kind of vegging on the couch. I went to Costa Rica for work this past week, and it was great. The first 2 days we were there, we did some sightseeing. We went to a volcano, we went to a lagoon and a waterfall and a coffee farm, and it was all super beautiful, very pretty. I was in San Jose, Costa Rica, and just the surrounding area is so nice, and the weather was great. It was like 82 and sunny. The city of San Jose itself, we went around a little bit also. It was great to see the culture there and just the city itself, but San Jose is not a city that you would want to be in like by yourself at night. It's definitely, if you are in Costa Rica and you go to San Jose, I would say it's more of a daytime activity and better done in a group. It was really cool though. And then I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, long days at the office, and still getting some work done back at the hotel that night. And then we traveled back on Thursday, and the travel was kind of a nightmare, but we made it home. But I only got a few hours sleep Thursday night, and then I worked on Friday. I crashed last night, but I still don't quite feel like I've completely recovered. So today's going to be pretty low key. It's just going to be a lot of, I think, sitting on the couch and reading. But yeah, that's kind of how my morning has went. But I am ready to pick up my book, which is The Book of Fallen Leaves by A.S. Tamaki. And this book has been really interesting so far. It is an epic fantasy, but I wouldn't say it's very high on the fantasy elements, at least so far in the book. I'm a good chunk through it, over halfway, but I wouldn't say that there's been a lot of like fantasy elements so far. We haven't really seen any magic in the people of the land, but there is some references to it for the gods, and there are some seers and things like that. But this book is Asian inspired, and it is a very political, intrigue heavy book. We're following our main character, Sen, who is an exiled prince, and he's been living off with a foster family for the majority of his life. When he was around 3 years old, his father tried to rebel against the current ruler of the land, and that rebellion failed. So Sen's whole family, with the exception of himself and a sister, was killed. And his sister was an older sister. She was kept in the capital, and she's been living there as kind of a pawn and a reminder to others about what happens if you do try to rebel against this empire. And then Sen would have been killed, but he ended up, an uncle of his took him off to the east, put him in hiding, along with a young girl named Rui, who was found with Sen. And his uncle took these two young children off to the east so that they wouldn't be murdered. And they've kind of been living in hiding. Sen's been living as a noble, and Rui has been living as a commoner in the village. And they don't remember much about that night when they were found together. And they've had not a lot of interactions when the story starts. The story picks up when Sen is now 17 years old, and he's been learning governance, the history of the land, fighting skills while he's been living with this family. And there starts to be rumblings of a rebellion, of people wanting to once again rise up against this empire, because the chancellor of the land has kind of taken over ruling for the emperor. The emperor is very young. He's about 19 years old, doesn't know much about ruling a country. And this chancellor keeps putting himself in better positions and better positions. He has his wife marry the emperor. They have a child. So now the heir to the emperor is his grandchild. And just a whole lot of political intrigue that has been going on. And some of the other nobles in the land are kind of sick of it. They don't like where things are going, and they're looking to step up and get people on board with once again rebelling against this empire. Now, where Sen comes into play with this, he's one of the surviving heirs of a very well-known family, and they think he can kind of be a figurehead for this rebellion. And at this point, Rui and Sen have become close friends, and she doesn't want to see him go off and be this figurehead. So she ends up traveling with him because she thinks that she can keep him safe. And that's kind of where I am in the book so far. And as far as the author's writing, I think the writing's really good in this book. So this book is definitely for people who like political intrigue. I would say that that's the main plot point. There's a little bit of relationships, as there's kind of this friendship between Rui and Sen, and almost a budding romance. Nothing has happened as of yet, and I'm over halfway through the book, but you can kind of see where they care for each other. But the majority of the book, it's not been a lot of fighting or anything as of yet, just kind of small skirmishes. But it's all been about the backstory and the political intrigue of this chancellor, and then the different factions trying to take him down. So definitely more of a book for those of you that like politics and scheming and kind of backhanded relationships than someone looking for a high fantasy with a lot of magic and battles and different creatures in it. So not really sure where I'm going to land with this one yet. I have been enjoying it. You do have to pay quite a bit of attention to what's going on while you're reading it, because it is mostly about politics. So yeah, I'm going to sit here and read for a little while. And then I do have a book haul that I want to do with you guys today as well. So I'm going to get some reading in first, and then we'll get to the book haul. All right, so now it is time for the little book haul. So I did pick up a book when I went to Target today, which is Direbound by Sable Sorensen, and it is the special edition. It's super pretty. Love the sprayed edges. And here is what the inside looks like. There is the front, and then it has some great end pages. There's the first one. There's the next one. And I am late to the party on this book. Lots of people have already read this one. I've heard a lot of great reviews of it. I've heard some negative ones as well. But I think the good I've heard has outweighed the bad. And this book gets compared a lot to like Fourth Wing. They say it's basically a Fourth Wing with wolves. So I did enjoy Fourth Wing. So I think that there's a good chance I'll enjoy this one also. Let me just get the cover back on here. So in this book, we're following a young woman named Saren, and she has decided to enroll in the military because her sister has been stolen. There's some people across the border. I think they may be vampires, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But there's people across the border that have been coming across and stealing children from the land that Maren lives in, and her sister was one of those stolen. So she has decided the best way that she can try to get her sister back is to join the military so that she has a chance to go to the border and try to find her sister. Now, within the military, there's a few different divisions. There's like the regular troops, and then there's a special group that is bound to dire wolves. And Maren doesn't want any part of those dire wolves. She just wants to get in, get trained, get to the border. But as luck would have it, she does end up bonding to a dire wolf. And dire wolves are basically just gargantuous wolves. I believe they have some intelligence to them as well. And through that bond, you just become an even better warrior. So all of those elements definitely sound right up my alley. I love me a good fantasy, and it sounds like this will be kind of a quest because Maren is trying to, get to her sister. I do think there's also a love triangle in here. Love triangles are hit and miss for me, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this one's definitely been on my radar for a while. I just haven't got around to it. And I know the second book in the series comes out pretty soon as well. I think that one is called Fury Bounds. So yeah, went ahead and picked this up while I was at Target today, even though I technically did not need to buy any more books. Then the next book was one of my Book of the Month books, and I've actually already read this one, which is Dawn of the North by Demi Winters. It's the third book in the Ashen series, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love this series. I had read the third book as an ARC, so I wanted to get a physical copy to add to my collection. So if you haven't heard of the Ashen series, I definitely would suggest picking it up if you're someone who likes more plot-forward romantasy. It has all the romance elements that you look for in a romantasy, but there's a lot of plot and a lot of world building, great magic system, and just character interactions throughout the series as well. So definitely a series that's worth the read if you're a romantasy fan. Then next up, also from Book of the Month, we have Lady Tremaine by Rachel Hochhauser. And I probably butchered this poor author's last name, but that's the best I could do. So this book, I believe, is a Cinderella retelling. I don't know much about it, but that is the little bit that I do know. And I'll just read you guys a little bit of the synopsis because it'll help you know what the book's about. And quite honestly, it'll help me know what the book's about. So this first name is a doozy. I'm going to do my best. Twice widowed Lady Etheldreda Verity Isolde Tremaine Bramley is solely responsible for her two children, a priggish stepdaughter, a razor-taloned peregrine falcon, and a crumbling manor. Fierce and determined, Ethel clings to the respectability her deceased husband's title affords her, hoping it will secure her daughter's futures through marriage. When a royal ball offers the chance to change everything, Ethel risks her pride in pursuit of an invitation for all three of her daughters, only to see her hopes fulfilled by the wrong one, as an engagement to the future king unfolds. Ethel discovers a sordid secret hidden in the depths of the royal family, forcing her to choose between the security she craves and the well-being of the stepdaughter who has rebuffed her at every turn. So yeah, sounds very interesting. Not your typical take on a Cinderella story. It almost sounds like Cinderella may be the not nice daughter. Not 100% sure about that. But yeah, like I said, I had gotten this one from Book of the Month this month as well. And if you're not familiar with Book of the Month, it is a book subscription service. It's really affordable. They do a lot of debut authors and kind of curate a list of 6 books each month for you to pick from. And if there's a month where there's a book you do not want, then you can either just hold that credit over until the next month and use it, which is what I did. That's why I have these 2 books here. Is in February. There wasn't really a book I wanted, so I just used that one in March to get this book, and then also my regular March credit to pick up this one. So if you are interested in trying Book of the Month, I have a link down below in my description box, and that'll get you your first book for $5. I've had Book of the Month for about a year now, and I've really enjoyed it and definitely recommend the service. The books end up running you around $15 a month, which is really cheap for a hardback. So definitely worth taking a look into it if you're not already a Book of the Month member. Then the next 2 books I was kindly sent by Orbit, and these are by Laura Mayo. And the first one is How to Summon a Fairy Godmother. And then the next one is How to Survive a Fairy Bargain. And these books are part of a series, and they sound like they're very tongue-in-cheek, have a lot of charm to them, a lot of humor. I'll read you the synopsis of them just to give you a better idea. Lady Balfar is in trouble. Her stepsister is spreading not totally untrue rumors about her family, and now her estate is on the verge of bankruptcy, rejected by society. Theo's only path forward is a forceful betrothal to the Duke of Snowbell, a geezer who wishes only to use her as a broodmare. Desperate for help, Theo clings to the one thing that might save her, the rumor of a fairy godmother, the same one who supposedly helped her stepsister secure a prince. After all, if a fairy can get someone into a marriage, getting someone out of a marriage should be easy. So this one is kind of also related to Cinderella. It's almost like a spin-off from that, Cinderella meeting her prince and falling in love. This is the aftermath. This sister that is left, she wants that same fairy godmother to come help her get out of this marriage. So the series just sounds really fun. And then the second one, it's kind of along the same vein as tongue-in-cheek. And I'm not going to read you the synopsis of this one because I think there's some spoilers for that first book. I haven't read any of them yet, so I guess at this point I know a little bit of a spoiler because I did look at the back. But that's okay. I still think they'd be fun. And once I read these, I'll definitely let you know my thoughts on them. They do sound like a series that's going to be more of a brain break, something you may need after a more taxing read that's been really emotional. These just seem like they're really lighthearted and fun. And thank you again to Orbit for sending me copies of these books. And then the last 2 books I have are from Barnes & Noble, and I hadn't intended on buying either of these books, but what happened is I had got a copy of The Will of the Many, and you may know this if you saw my last reading vlog, but I was about 182 pages into the book, and then it jumped to page 400 and something. So there was a misprint with the book, and I ended up taking it back to Barnes & Noble. They took it no problem, which was really nice because it had been past 30 days, which is their typical policy. But since it was a misprint and I obviously could not read the book and I still had my receipt, they went ahead and took the book back. Now, in the meantime, I had already bought a replacement for the Will of the Many because I needed to know what was happening. I wasn't going to wait around until I took the book back and then, saw what happened with that. So I had ordered a new copy off of Amazon. So since I already had a copy, they gave me a store credit. Hence what led to the additional book purchases. Now, one of these books was covered by the credit and one of them sadly was not, but I just had to have it. So the book that was actually covered by the credit was Half City by Kate Golden. And this one recently came out. I've heard nothing but good things about it. And this was a really pretty edition. It does have the nice sprayed edges there. It is a paperback, and it does also have some nice end pages for a paperback. I don't think you always get those decorative end pages when you're picking up a paperback book. I was super excited that I could pick this one up. This one is an urban fantasy, and we're following a young woman named Viv, and she is a demon hunter. Her father was a demon hunter. He trained her to be a demon hunter. Her father ended up getting killed, and so she's trying to be a demon hunter on her own now. And since her father's not around anymore and she has been, kind of doing this demon hunting thing on her own, there's still a lot that she feels like she needs to learn. And she ends up running into a demon who somehow sets her on a path to go to this academy that is for demon hunters. So definitely sounds interesting, not your run-of-the-mill fantasy book. I believe the love interest in this book is a demon as well, so that adds another layer to the story. But yeah, only been hearing good things about it, so wanted to give it a try. And then the last book I picked up because I saw it, it was beautiful, and I had to have it. And that is the Barnes & Noble special edition of Divine Rivals. I haven't read this book yet. It is a YA romantasy, but it's been on my radar for a while. And this one was just so beautiful, I went ahead and bought it. So it's in a box. So that is the front cover of the box. And then here is this side. It has the little typewriter right there. This is the back and the spine. And then there's the front of the naked cover. And on the back, it says, I'm coming to love him in two different ways, face to face and word to word. And then that's what the back looks like. And the sprayed edges. And then here are the end pages. The back is a map. So just a really beautiful edition. All right, so now I'm just gonna go have some lunch, maybe try to pick up a little bit around the house, but I'll catch back up with you later once I have another reading update. All right, my friends, so I am back with a reading update on the Book of Fallen Leaves. I am almost at the end. I think I have right around 30 pages or so left. So we will definitely be finishing this book together today. And kind of where I am, I'm still in a similar place to where I talked to you last as far as how I'm feeling about this book. It's a good book, lots of political intrigue, lots of scheming, various different factions that all have their own agendas of how they think that this country and this government should be running. And if you're a person that likes political books, then this would definitely be a good one for you. Now, what I will say about it is we get a lot of different viewpoints in this book, and some of those viewpoints, I don't know if they were necessary. They gave us some additional background and let us see like some of those other, kind of plots that different factions had going on. But I feel like we haven't spent a lot of time with who it appears to be are our two main characters, which is Sin and Rui. And, you know, they're the ones on the synopsis on the back of the book and the ones that were kind of at the forefront, at least at the beginning of the book. But then as we went through and more POVs were added, I feel like we spent less and less time with those two characters, which to me, you know, they should be the meat of the book, the main focus, just based on what their roles are in this, you know, kind of conspiracy and war in this particular realm. It's basically a civil war. We start out before the war has happened, and then as these different factions kind of come to a head, then, you know, we end up in a civil war with just our various different players. But I really feel like we just needed a little bit more time with these two characters, and that could have really expanded upon the story and just drawn me in more and made me more invested in those characters. Plus, I think it would have made me more invested in some of those kind of side characters as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Like I said, I am still enjoying it. That's kind of my critique, is the points of views and the amount of time we spent with those two main characters. But I will say in this last 100 pages, the pacing has started to pick up. So I'm really interested to see how we finish out. And like I said, we'll do that together later today. And then also, other thing that I wanted to get done today is I have a bunch of books that I want to list on Pango, as I had mentioned previously. Pango is a used book online store, and you know, you just take a photo of the book, post it on there, put a little description in, and people can go on and buy those books. And I use any money I make from Pango to buy more books for myself. So the ones I'm planning on listing, and this doesn't mean any of these were bad books, it's just, you know, there are ones that I either thought were good but don't have any desire to keep them on my bookshelf. I know I'm not going to revisit them and I kind of have limited space. Or there are ones where I bought the whole series and then I read the first book and figured out that it may not be for me, which I have decided to quit doing. No more buying a whole series before we read the first book, because that leads to wasted money. But it's just a good option to get rid of any books that you don't want and then still get a little bit back from them. You're not going to get like full price unless it's some sort of special edition. I tend to price mine pretty reasonably. If I get, you know, a few dollars out of it, that's good enough for me. So the first one that I'm going to list is The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. And this one was actually a surprise 4-star read for me. I didn't really have any sort of big expectations when I went into it, but I actually really enjoyed it. The writing's very lyrical, very enchanting. It's about a secret society and a curse, and a young woman named Violet who's trying to figure out what she can do to break this curse. So if you haven't read The City of Stardust, it is one I would highly recommend. I really enjoyed it, and it's a very quick read, not a long book at all, and I would like to see this author do more books kind of in this world with the scholars, which is kind of the secret society in this book. Then I'm also getting rid of Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This one I gave a 3.5, so it was a good book, but I wouldn't say it was a great book. Though it does have the best first line of a book ever, so I won't spoil that for you in this video, but yeah, definitely, if you've read this book and that first line, let me know what you thought of it. But overall, this is a Snow White retelling. I thought the plot was really interesting and like a good twist on Snow White. I just thought that our main character, she was made to be quirky for the sake of being quirky. It didn't really fit with her character. She seemed more bull in a china shop than anything else, and it just made some of her interactions feel kind of forced with some of the other characters. So that was kind of its downfall for me, but overall, still a good book. Then next up, I am getting rid of the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. Nothing wrong with this series at all. I only read the first book, Caraval, And, you know, I really enjoyed how lyrical the writing was. I think Stephanie Garber's very imaginative, but these felt young for me. And I'm learning that there's certain YA books that I'm just grown out of, and I haven't had a desire to pick up the next book in the series. And I don't really think I'm going to. So I've decided to part with the series. And once again, not buy whole series without reading the first book. We're going to learn from our mistakes because, as you will see, I made this mistake twice. So I'm also going to list the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. This is another one. I read the first book in the series. I enjoyed it. There wasn't anything wrong with it. I thought it was an interesting twist on the fae. These are more dark fae, more cruel fae than you typically see in a lot of fantasy books. So I really enjoyed that part of it, but the relationships felt really young to me. And it's another one where I just haven't had any desire to pick up the next book in the series. So I'm going to part with these as well. And that's all the ones I plan on listing. If you are interested in looking at any of these books, I'll have my link to my Pango store down below in the description box. And a little later on today, I'll get these listed and up on the site. So that's all I have for now. And then we'll come back in a little bit once I get Luna out for a walk and have some lunch. And then we will finish up the Book of Fallen Leaves together. So I just finished the Book of Fallen Leaves, and I don't think my opinion has really changed much on it. I'm going to land, I think, at around a 3.75. It was a good book. Like I said, the writing was really lyrical. The political intrigue and the scheming and the different factions all kind of brought their own character into the story. But it was a little slow moving. A lot of the action didn't start till the last 100 pages or so, which means there was 450 plus pages where not a whole lot was going on. We were meeting the different factions. We were getting to know Sin and Rui some, but like I said, I would have liked to have seen more of them and gotten to know them better. I also thought this was standalone. It's not. It's definitely going to be part of a series based on the way it ended. Overall, I would say it was a solid debut work. And hopefully, as the series continues, now that we got so much background in this book, we'll, have a little bit faster pace, maybe be able to get a little more invested in our characters. So we'll kind of see how it goes from here. But that's going to be it for this reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me while we did some bookish things. Take care, keep reading, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye!